Swept path analysis is a vehicle simulation that uses computer programs that run what we'd say is a simulation of particular vehicles. So depending on your development, be it residential where you might need to look at how a car manoeuvres, right through to a commercial development where you might need to see how a semi-trailer or a B-double can manoeuvre. Do you want to talk about some of the key parts, Dave?
Yeah, so the critical elements are, I guess, how the car, let's start with cars, how they manoeuvre in and out of parking spaces or in and out of the whole car parking installation. So there's the width of the car, the length of the car are the critical elements, but then also things like steering angle, lock-to-lock time. And what we do is we run the simulation based on the Australian standard, which outlines the key parameters for certain vehicle types, and determine if the current design we're looking at is functional or what level of change is required to make it work. Another critical element that we see sometimes omitted, so architects, building designers quite often run their own turning simulations, but vehicle clearance is probably the key one. So if you think about where you park your car, you're not parking that car hard up against a column or wall. You need to allow for clearance on either side, front and back as well. So when we run our simulations, depending on what vehicle class and what type of manoeuvre we're doing, typically we adopt 300mm clearance based on the standard, and that ensures when you are parking your vehicle, you have adequate clearance front and side to make sure that you're not striking objects that are on either side of parking spaces.
In terms of when you might need to do swept path analysis, one of the key ones we see is when you have a bit of a non-standard design. So where it doesn't fall into the exact parameters of the standards in relation to dimensions, that's when you'll run these simulations to really check and demonstrate that what has been designed works. Usually the road authority, being at council, will ask for them in particular situations, and you'll often get a letter from council asking for these assessments to be done by a suitably qualified traffic engineer, and that's where we really come into the space.
And typically what council or Department of Transport want to see is they want to see cars able to manoeuvre on site in order to exit the site in a forwards direction. So probably the one that we get the most is townhouse developments. So you have a row of townhouses, they come in off a shared access way into either garage or carport, and then need to be able to manoeuvre in order to exit the site in a forwards direction. That's probably the type of swept path we're undertaking most. And then non-standard designs, most of the case. There's a number of elements as well that you need to consider when you're doing these. So where you might do a standard townhouse design, there's a number of elements that impact the swept path. So garage door opening width, the projection of building in front of the garages. So you might have a very wide access aisle, but if the dwelling building itself projects quite a bit in front of the garage, then it can be difficult to show cars to manoeuvre and get past that projection. So those non-standard ones are the ones where it's great to get assistance up front, because it can have big implications on the amount of leasable or saleable floor area you're able to generate.